Do you ever feel like you're just completely drowning in emails, notifications constantly popping up, shallow tasks just piling up?
Oh, definitely. It's like this constant barrage, isn't it?
Yeah,
Almost impossible to escape sometimes.
exactly. You feel like you're just sort of treading water in all this digital noise. But what if? What if there was a skill, a really powerful way to cut through that?
Okay, I'm listening. Cut through it how?
Well, not just cut through it, but actually unlock your best work. The kind of work that brings real meaning, real satisfaction.
That sounds almost too good to be true in today's world.
Right. But that's what this deep dive is all about today. We're talking about deep work.
Deep work.
Yeah, it's this concept that's really becoming, well, a key currency for success,
Yeah.
especially now in this information economy we're all in.
So it's more than just focusing.
Much more. Our mission today is to really unpack what deep work is, why it's honestly more crucial than ever, and give you some real actionable
And
strategies.
where's this coming from?
We've pulled this from a whole body of research and some really fascinating real-world examples. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's unpack this. What is deep work, really?
It's maybe easiest to grasp with examples. Think about um, Carl Jung.
The psychologist?
Yeah. Now, he didn't use the term deep work, obviously, but his actions. Wow. He actually built a stone tower.
A tower, like a literal stone tower.
Yes. In the woods near Bowling, a personal sanctuary. He'd go there, take time away from his clinical practice, specifically to concentrate without distractions.
Why? I mean, why go to such lengths?
He knew instinctively that this kind of intense, focused work, even though it was hard, was absolutely vital for his big goal, changing the world with his ideas.
So it was a deliberate strategy for him.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating here is how this definition we're using captures that. The research defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit.
Okay, push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. That sounds intense.
It is, but that's the point. These efforts create genuinely new value. They improve your skills significantly. And crucially, they're hard for others to just replicate. It's not busy work.
Right, not commodity work. And it's not just historical figures, is it? You mentioned modern examples.
Oh, definitely. Look at Jason Benn's story. It's pretty incredible.
Tell me about him.
So he was a financial consultant making around $40,000, wanted to switch careers, learn coding, but he knew he got easily distracted.
Relatable for many, I imagine.
Totally.
Oh,
So what did he do? He went extreme. He literally said he locked myself in a room with no computer, just textbooks, note cards, and a highlighter.
wow. No computer. How did he practice coding?
He read, highlighted, practiced concepts out loud for 5, sometimes more, disconnected hours a day, pure focus on the fundamentals.
That takes serious discipline. Did it work?
Did it ever?
Yeah.
He got into Dev Boot Camp, a place a Princeton PhD student called the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and graduated top of his class.
And the job.
Landed a $100,000 job pretty quickly. He became such a believer, he even rented an apartment right across from his office.
Why? Just for the commute?
Nope. So he could get in early and get 4 hours of focus before the first meeting. No email, no hacker news, just programming. 4 solid hours every day.
That's a stunning turnaround. From struggling with focus to that level of intensity.
It really is. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it shows why deep work is so vital now.
How so? More vital than before.
Well, think about the industrial economy. Deep work mattered, sure, but mostly for a small, skilled group. Most people just needed to follow instructions.
Okay.
But now, we're in an information economy. Many more of us are knowledge workers. And in this world, deep work, it's becoming the main currency for success. It's what makes you valuable.
So it's not just for academics or coders?
Not at all. The author of the main source we looked at, he uses his own experience. In 10 years after college, he published 4 books, got a PhD, tons of peer-reviewed papers, got a 10-year track.
Sounds like someone working 80-hour weeks.
You'd think. But he says he often finished work by 5 or 6 p.m. His secret, 3 to 4 hours daily of completely uninterrupted and carefully directed concentration.
Just 3 or 4 hours of deep work.
That's what he claims. It shows the power of focused intensity over just, hours logged being busy.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, and honestly a bit paradoxical. If deep work is so vital, so effective, why is it so rare?
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
And why do so many workplaces seem to actively discourage it? It feels like everything is set up for distraction.
It often is. There are huge trends pushing against it. Take open office plants.
Oh, yeah. The standard now, it seems. Oh,
Exactly. We read about Facebook's headquarters having the largest open floor plan in the world. Thousands of employees in one space. Square. Other tech giants. Similar setups.
what's the reasoning they give?
The buzzword is serendipity. People bumping into each other, sparking ideas, teaching each other things
Does
spontaneously.
it work like that?
Maybe sometimes. But the downside is constant visual and auditory distraction. It can be absolutely killer for anyone trying to actually concentrate deeply.
And it's not just the physical layout, is it? There's the whole digital environment, too.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure to be constantly on, constantly connected. We saw that the New York Times actually encourages its reporters, all 800 plus of them,
Wow.
to be active on Twitter.
Encourages them, like it's part of the job.
It seems that way.
Mhm.
And contrast that with someone like the novelist Jonathan Franzen. He called Twitter a coercive development for writers.
And how is that received?
He got ridiculed,
Yeah.
called out of touch. It's like there's this expectation now to engage in this constant frothy back and forth, even if it shreds your ability to do sustained, thoughtful work.
We've sort of forgotten how to just disconnect.
We really have. And then there's email, the sheer volume.
Don't get me started on email.
Well, look at this statistic. Atlantic Media figured out they were spending over $1 million a year just paying employees to process email.
$1 million on
Yeah.
email.
Yeah. They calculated each message cost about 95 cents in labor just to read and deal with it.
That's staggering. Why do we let it dominate so much?
It ties into something called the principle of least resistance. Basically, in business, if there isn't clear feedback on the impact of your actions.
Like how valuable writing that report is versus answering emails?
Exactly. We tend to default to the behaviors that are easiest in the moment. And what's easier than quickly replying to an email or an instant message? It feels productive right then.
Even if it destroys your focus for the next hour.
Precisely. It optimizes for the moment, but often undermines long-term value creation.
So it feels like we're stuck in this metric black hole, you called it, where the real value of deep work or the cost of constantly being distracted just isn't tracked.
That's a great way to put it. No one's really measuring the cost of your lack of focus. It's invisible on the balance sheet.
And because it's hard to measure?
Our culture develops this bias. The research calls it a technopoly. It's this sort of unquestioning belief that if something involves the internet or new tech, it must be good, it must be progress.
Regardless of its actual impact on getting meaningful stuff done.
Right. We assume connectivity equals productivity. And deep work, which is based on older ideas like craftsmanship and focused mastery, it kind of gets sidelined.
It sounds like that writer George Packer felt that pressure.
Yeah, the New Yorker writer. He was refreshingly honest. He said, "Twitter is crack for media addicts. It scares me. I'm afraid I'd end up letting my son go hungry."
Wow, that's intense. Did he use it?
Nope. And despite that, or maybe because of that, he won the National Book Award for his book, The Unwinding. His deep work paid off, untouched by the constant chatter.
That's a powerful story, making a conscious choice against the grain.
It really is.
Okay, so this is all sounding a bit bleak. The modern world seems designed against deep work. How can you listening, fight back against this? How do we build our own sort of personal Boolean towers?
It's definitely a challenge, but it's doable. It starts with intentionally setting the stage for depth. And sometimes that might mean what the research calls grand gestures.
Grand gestures, like what?
Yeah.
Dramatic moves.
Kind of. Think about J.K. Rowling finishing the last Harry Potter book.
Right. The Deathly Hallows. What about it?
She was struggling at home. Kids, dogs barking, the window cleaner showing up, constant interruptions.
Sounds familiar.
So what did she do? She checked into a suite at the Balmoral, this fancy 5-star hotel in Edinburgh.
Just to write?
Just to write.
Yeah.
She said the first day went so well, she just kept going back. Finished the entire book there. It's about changing her environment drastically to enable focus.
That's committing. It wasn't just about luxury. It was about buying focus.
Exactly. Or look at William Shockley, the physicist.
The transistor guy.
Yep. He had been scooped on the initial invention. He had ideas for a better design, but needed to nail them down. So he locked himself in a hotel room in Chicago.
Another hotel room lockdown.
Yeah. Told himself he wouldn't leave until he'd figured it out. Then he immediately airmailed his notes to timestamp the breakthrough.
And that led to
His share of the Nobel Prize. These aren't just quirky anecdotes. They show strategic, sometimes extreme investment in getting that deep focus.
Okay, so grand gestures are one way. But most of us can't just check into a 5-star hotel whenever we need to focus. Are there more sort of everyday strategies?
Absolutely. The sources talk about different philosophies for scheduling deep work into your life.
Philosophies, like different approaches.
Right. The most hardcore is the monastic philosophy.
Monastic. Sounds isolated.
It is total isolation from most outside communication. Think Neil Stephenson, the sci-fi author.
Oh, I know his work.
His website has no email, no contact address. He basically says, look, I can either write good novels or I can answer emails and go to conferences. I choose novels.
Wow. That's a clear choice. Not practical for everyone, though.
Definitely not. So a less extreme option is the bimodal philosophy.
Bimodal, what's that?
You dedicate clear, long chunks of time, maybe days, a week, even longer, purely to deep work. Then outside those chunks, you're fully accessible.
So you alternate between deep focus and being connected.
Exactly. Carl Jung's retreats to his tower were like this. A more modern example is Adam Grant, the Wharton professor.
What does he do?
He stacks all his teaching into one semester. That frees up the entire other semester for deep research. And even within that research time, he takes these short, like 2 to 4 day monastic breaks for super intense focus.
That makes sense. Create big blocks. Does it work in, say, a corporate setting?
Interestingly, yes. There was a study mentioned with management consultants. They forced themselves to take 1 full day off-grid each week. No email, no calls.
And their clients freaked out.
Nope. The study found the clients basically didn't care as long as the work got done. It shows you can set boundaries.
Okay, that's encouraging. What other philosophies are there?
There's the journalistic philosophy. This one might be more adaptable for many people.
Journalistic, how does that work?
It's about fitting deep work into your schedule whenever you find a free moment. Like a journalist on a deadline, grabbing writing time whenever they can.
So snatching bits of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Walter Isaacson, the biographer, was famous for this. He'd apparently just disappear for 20 minutes, maybe an hour, work intensely on his book, then pop back into the conversation like nothing happened.
Requires quick shifting of gears.
It does. The author of our source material uses this approach too. Working when the kids nap, visiting relatives, if a meeting gets canceled, you seize those unexpected pockets of time for focused work.
I like that. It feels more achievable day to day, finding those gaps.
Right. But regardless of which philosophy you lean towards, the key is executing it effectively, like a business.
Execute like a business. How?
The research points to this framework called the 4 Disciplines of Execution, or 4DX. Discipline 1. Focus on the wildly important goals, your WIGs.
Wigs. Okay. Wildly important goals.
Yeah. Don't try to focus deeply on 10 things. Pick 1 or 2 really ambitious outcomes that will make the biggest difference.
Can you give an example?
The author's own WIG one year was to publish 5 high-quality academic papers. That was ambitious, clear, and had big rewards, like helping get tenure.
Okay, so define the big win. What's next?
Discipline 2. Act on the lead measures. This is crucial.
Lead measures versus lag measures?
Exactly. Lag measures are the results like the number of papers published. You can't directly influence those day to day. Lead measures are the activities that drive the results.
Ah, so what you actually do.
Right. For deep work, the best lead measure is simply time spent in a state of deep work dedicated to your WIG.
So you track the hours of focus?
Yes. Every hour you spend in deep concentration gets tallied immediately. It gives you instant feedback, instant motivation. You see the effort adding up, which keeps you going, much more than waiting months for the lag measure, like the paper getting accepted.
That's a powerful shift. Focus on the controllable effort. I like that. What else?
Embracing downtime. This isn't about being lazy. It's actually critical for deep work.
How so? Seems counterintuitive.
Well, first, you need a strict shutdown ritual. When your workday is done, it's done.
No checking email after dinner, no mulling over work problems.
None. Completely cease work-related thinking. The author suggests a ritual. Final email check, move tasks to lists, make a plan for anything incomplete, then say a phrase like, shutdown complete.
Does that actually work? Just deciding to stop thinking about it?
It leverages something called the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains tend to obsess over unfinished tasks. But if you make a concrete plan for when and how you'll tackle it next...
Blue brain, let's go.
Exactly. It frees up cognitive resources. It feels handled for now.
Okay, the shutdown is step 1. Why is the downtime itself so important?
2 main reasons. First, downtime allows for unconscious processing. Your brain keeps working on problems in the background, making connections. Second, it recharges your directed attention.
Directed attention.
Yeah, that's your ability to concentrate, to filter out distractions. It's a finite resource. Like a muscle, it gets fatigued.
So downtime lets it recover.
Right. There's research called attention restoration theory, RT. It shows that activities like walking in nature can restore your concentration significantly, like up to 20% better than walking in a busy city.
Nature walks aren't slacking off, they're cognitive enhancement.
Pretty much. And consider this. Most experts, people who do intense mental work, they rarely sustain more than about 4 hours of deep concentration per day. You physically need the recharge.
Only 4 hours. That puts things in perspective.
It really does. You can even make downtime more active with something called productive meditation.
Productive meditation. Sounds like an oxymoron.
Maybe. But the idea is simple. While doing a physical activity that doesn't require much mental effort, walking, jogging, commuting, showering even,
Okay.
you focus your mind intensely on a single, well-defined professional problem. No distractions, just turning that problem over and over.
So using idle physical time for focused thinking.
Exactly. The author apparently worked out entire book chapters and solved tricky technical issues this way.
That's clever.
Yeah.
Leveraging downtime. Now, what about building the focus muscle itself?
Ah, yes. You have to train your concentration. It's a skill, not just an innate talent.
How do you train concentration?
Practice. Deliberate practice. The book mentions Adam Marlin. Despite having multiple Ivy League degrees, he found that years of daily, rigorous Talmud study,
Which requires intense focus.
intense focus, and complex reasoning, it built his mental muscle in a way his other education hadn't. He found it led to more creative insights in his later business career.
So engaging in any activity that demands sustained focus can help.
Yes, it's like concentration calisthenics for your brain. Another practical way to train this is to actively schedule your internet use.
Schedule it, not just try to avoid it.
Right. Instead of fighting distractions intermittently all day, set specific blocks of time when you allow yourself to use the internet. Outside those blocks, it's off limits completely.
Why is that more effective?
Because constantly switching between the high stimuli environment of the internet and the low stimuli environment needed for deep work actually weakens your ability to sustain focus. Your brain gets addicted to novelty.
So treating offline time as training sessions.
Precisely. Those offline blocks become your concentration calisthenics. You're actively strengthening your attention span every time you resist the urge to quickly check something online.
Okay, train the brain, manage downtime. What about all the shallow stuff that fills our days? The emails, the meetings, the admin?
That's the next big frontier. Ruthlessly taming shallow work. First, you need to get a sense of your current ratio.
Deep work versus shallow work.
Yeah. Ask yourself this for any given task. How long would it take a smart, recent college graduate with no specialized training in my field to figure out how to do this task?
Okay, interesting metric. Give me an example.
Well, analyzing a complex academic paper might take years of specialized knowledge. That's deep. Creating a standard quarterly sales presentation. Maybe a bright new grad could learn to do it acceptably in a couple of months. That's shallower.
So the goal is to identify and minimize the time spent on those shallower tasks.
Exactly. And consciously bias your schedule towards the deep work that only you can do.
How do you enforce that bias? Life tends to get in the way.
One powerful technique is fixed schedule productivity.
Fixed schedule.
You set a firm end time for your workday, say 5:30 p.m., and you stick to it. Then you work backward from that deadline.
How does that help?
It forces a scarcity mindset. You only have a limited number of hours. It makes you much more ruthless about saying no to shallow tasks, much more focused on fitting in the deep work first. You have to be efficient.
So the constraint forces prioritization.
Absolutely. The author used this as a professor, a job known for endless demands, and maintained high productivity without working crazy hours.
Okay, that makes sense. What about email specifically? It's such a time suck.
Huge time suck. Several strategies here. One is using sender filters.
Putting the burden on the sender.
Yes. Make it slightly harder for people to email you, especially for common requests. We saw the example of consultant Clay Herbert. Before you can email him, you have to check his FAQ and fill out a survey.
Pre-qualifying the email.
Right. Or that designer, Antonio. His contact page makes you tick boxes, promising you've done basic research first, like, I'm not asking Antonio a style question I could find searching Google for 10 minutes. Only then does the message box appear.
Huh. I love that. Making people think before they hit send.
Exactly. Another tactic, do more work when you send or reply.
Meaning?
Instead of quick back-and-forth emails, take the extra minute to be comprehensive in your reply. Think through the entire process, anticipate the next question, provide all necessary info. The goal is to end the chain with your reply.
Invest a bit more time up front to save multiple emails later.
Precisely. And finally, The perhaps controversial one, don't respond.
Ignore emails.
Sometimes, yes. Especially emails that are ambiguous, that don't really align with your priorities, or where, honestly, nothing really good would happen if you did respond and nothing really bad would happen if you didn't.
The professorial approach, they called it?
That's the one. Be judicious with your attention. It's your most valuable resource.
Okay, managing email is key. What about other tools? Social media, Slack, all that stuff.
This requires shifting from the common any benefit approach.
Any benefit, what's that?
It's justifying using a tool like Twitter, Slack, whatever, if you can find any possible benefit, no matter how small or infrequent.
Well, I might miss an important announcement, or it helps me stay connected.
Exactly. But the problem is, many of these tools are engineered to be addictive. They're designed to capture and fragment your attention. The small benefit often comes at a huge cost to deep work.
So what's the alternative?
The craftsman approach.
Huh.
Think like a skilled craftsperson choosing their tools.
How does that apply here?
The source uses the example of Forrest Pritchard, a sustainable farmer deciding whether to buy a hay baler. He didn't just look at the cost or convenience. He asked how it would impact his core value, his baseline, which was soil fertility.
So you evaluate tools based on whether they significantly support your core, most valuable activities, and weigh that against their costs, including the cost to your focus.
Precisely. Does this tool substantially improve my ability to do my most important work? Or does it mostly distract me?
That leads back to the Pareto principle, right? The 80-20 rule.
Exactly. The law of the vital few. Identify the 20% of tools or activities that genuinely produce 80% of your valuable results, and be ruthless about cutting out or minimizing the rest.
Like Gladwell, Lewis, Packer avoiding Twitter.
Perfect examples. They know their core work is research and careful, long-form writing. Twitter might offer tiny marketing benefits, but it doesn't fundamentally help that core work, and the distraction cost is too high. So they opt out.
It's about strategic selection, not just adopting everything.
Right. And to really test the value these tools actually provide in your life, the research suggests a pretty radical experiment.
Oh, what's that?
The 30-day social media ban.
30 days! Cold turkey.
Cold turkey. Inspired by this guy Ryan Nicodemus, who did a packing party, packed up all his belongings to see what he truly missed. Here, you just quit all optional network tools for 30 days.
And crucially, you don't announce it online.
Right. No grand declarations, just disappear from those platforms for a month.
Why is that important?
It helps you test two things. The actual fear of missing out, spoiler, you probably won't miss much, and the illusion that your presence there is vital or brings you significant benefits.
So it's a reality check.
Exactly. For most people, the experience confirms that many of these services are, as the source puts it, lightweight whimsy, one unimportant distraction among many. It can be incredibly liberating, freeing up mental space and attention you didn't even realize you were losing.
I can definitely see how that would clarify things. Wow. Okay, what a journey. We've really dug into this, haven't we? From the feeling of being overwhelmed by distraction.
To understanding what deep work actually is, that intense value-creating focus.
We looked at why it's so rare, despite being so valuable, with open offices and constant connectivity working against it.
But then we found a whole toolkit of strategies to fight back. Grand gestures like Rawling, smart scheduling like Jung or Isaacson.
Executing like a business with wigs and lead measures. The power of shutdown rituals and downtime.
Trading your attention, taming shallow work, being ruthless with email, and adopting that craftsman approach to tools. Even the 30-day ban.
It's a lot, but it paints a clear picture. There are concrete ways to cultivate this.
And it really comes down to more than just getting more done, doesn't it? It connects back to meaning.
How so?
Think about Rick Furrer, that master craftsman making Viking-era swords. He finds great meaning in the sheer challenge, saying, to do it right, it is the most complicated thing I know how to make, and it's that challenge that drives me.
The difficulty itself provides the satisfaction.
Or Santiago Gonzalez talking about crafting beautiful code like it's a poem. There's a depth there, a satisfaction that goes beyond the paycheck.
The source really emphasized that, didn't it? A deep life is a good life.
Exactly. And the crucial insight, you don't need a rarefied job. You need instead a rarefied approach to your work. You can find depth in many kinds of knowledge work if you approach it with intention.
So, listening to all this, what does it all mean for you listening right now?
Yeah, what really stands out to you from these ideas? And maybe think about this. How could even one small shift, just one strategy we talked about, start to transform your own work from maybe feeling like a distracted, draining obligation
Mhm.
into something genuinely focused, productive, and maybe even truly satisfying.